Hey, what's going on today, guys? Hope you're having a wonderful day, as always. So, I was just watching some Counter-Strike, and it's been a long time since I watched any Counter-Strike, and it's been a long time since I played the game as well. Now, I was watching Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which I guess is a game that came out moderately recently, I don't know, within the past couple of years at least. And to be honest with you, it looks the exact same with like as Counter-Strike 1.6, basically the original Counter-Strike. At least it is in my mind, which I believe came out at least 15 years ago. And this game, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, looks the exact same, except for the updated graphics. And in addition to that, they're playing literally the exact same maps with a few tweaks. But they're literally the exact same maps for the most part. And I find that interesting because that's such a lot of the flack in the Call of Duty, I guess, community, or I guess the hate that comes to Call of Duty is based on the fact or opinions of others that the game is so basically the same as its predecessors, as the other games in the Call of Duty series. And, you know, I can see where they're coming from, but Call of Duty has changed a lot more than Counter-Strike, and it's changed a lot, I think, more so from Battlefield 3 to Battlefield 4 even, when from Call of Duty Ghost, or from Black Ops 2 to Call of Duty Ghosts. Anyway, there's no real reason to hate on the game. Counter-Strike definitely had a good foundation. It was probably one of the best, or one of the first kind of shooting games to come out. And it's basically a Half-Life mod. So it's not, I guess it wasn't really a game that they had planned. That Valve, I guess, is the maker of Half-Life. I don't think they really had planned Counter-Strike, but it was kind of just a mod that somebody created, or I don't exactly know how it went down. But it's still, it wasn't too bad to watch. It's certainly not anywhere near as exciting as watching Call of Duty. Because when I watched Call of Duty Ghosts for the first time competitively, like MLG Columbus, which was it was actually last weekend, I didn't think I was going to be too impressed. I thought that it was going to be a boring game. Just because Call of Duty Ghosts, it's kind of like it's fun to play and all, but I couldn't see it as being a fun game to watch, but I really got into it, and it turned out that it is a fun game to watch if you play the right kind of game modes, and that's just definitely what they had, and I'm excited to watch the next competition. But anyway, also the commentating on the Counter-Strike Global Offensive stream that was on Twitch TV. I didn't really enjoy it that much. The commentating was okay, but it was nowhere near as good as what I've seen on Call of Duty or in years past Halo. Halo was another game that I enjoyed watching and playing back in the day. So that's just something to note, that I think what the Call of Duty community has right now is a lot. We have great shoutcasters, especially the ones that go to like basically all the events. They've been consistent. They've had the same casters from MLG to the COD Championships to EGL or JFinity, all those kind of tournaments. They've had essentially the same casters, and it's refreshing because you get to see the same faces, but the people that are casting Call of Duty are actually fun and entertaining to watch, so it's a great bonus. So yeah, Counter-Strike, overall, what I watched basically the entire final three matches. It was basically a best of three against Fnatic and Ninjas in Pajamas. Now, Ninjas in Pajamas, if you guys don't know, has been around for so long. In fact, I remember them back in the day when I played Counter-Strike a little bit, which I was absolutely horrible at the game the entire time I played it, but I do remember watching them a few times, and I had heard about them from a friend. So it's interesting to see that franchise is still very powerful in the Counter-Strike community. But the upset was that Fnatic, spoiler alert, Fnatic ended up beating Ninjas in Pajamas, and it was a 2-1 victory, two maps to one. And I find it interesting that it's also set up differently. For example, they play to a maximum of 30 rounds. It's kind of, well, you can technically go to 31 if there's overtime, but it's typically up to 30 rounds. And it's first to 16 rounds is the winner. But what happens is, instead of switching sides after each round, something that you might see in Call of Duty, you see the one team go counter-terrorist and the other team go terrorist for the first 15 rounds, and then vice versa. They switch for the final 15 rounds, or potentially final 15 rounds. So it's interesting to see, because apparently and evidently in the matches I was watching, some of the sides are extremely one-sided, or some of the maps rather. For example, the terrorists have a huge advantage on DE Dust 2, which is one of the maps. So that's kind of interesting to see. You know, there are advantages like in some of the maps on Call of Duty, but you typically don't see it that one-sided, because I remember there was the first match that these two teams played in the grand final, it was 12-3 in favor of Ninjas in Pajamas, and I think the final score was 16-4 or something like that. I believe that's what the score was, because basically once Ninjas in Pajamas switched sides with Fnatic, the tides turned and Fnatic just really brought it back. And it was interesting to see that it was just so lopsided. I mean, it tilts all the power. It seems like such a one-sided victory in the first half that just goes completely out the door once the second half starts. So I thought that was interesting to see. Kind of a weird thing to see, actually, because you typically don't see that in a game such as Call of Duty or Halo when it's played competitively. Just because we don't seem to have those kinds of differences in the game. And I also want to talk about why Counter-Strike hasn't changed. And, you know, since Counter-Strike has been around for so long, it had early success, and it definitely has had success. In my mind, it's kind of been like StarCraft, where StarCraft was, you know, the original StarCraft was a game that was out for, I don't know, at least a decade before StarCraft 2 came out a few years ago. And you know, I know they made some other Counter-Strikes aside from 1.6, like they have Source, they have Global Offensive, I think they had something else possibly. But they don't really, the developers for Counter-Strike, I just blanked on what the name of the game was because I rarely ever see it. They just don't seem to, like, they've really changed much or tried to work hard to actually maintain a share of that kind of video game market, you know? Because in my opinion, there were a lot of viewers on the stream. In total, I believe there were 140,000 viewers combined with Twitch and some other source. But that's obviously not going to hold, and it's still interesting to see that many viewers actually cared about the game, because I was just watching it because it was like everyone else was watching it, and I kind of was moderately familiar with Counter-Strike. So I don't know. I just don't think it's that exciting to watch. The only reason you'd probably want to watch is for something like a grand final when it's the best teams in a big tournament, which is what I was watching because it was first place was $100,000. But it's also interesting that there are 5 players on each team, so it's even fewer people, or even more people that you have to divide the money amongst. You know, which is kind of lame. You know, because Call of Duty and Halo have been historically, for the most part, 4 versus 4 in competitive. So it's interesting to see that they have got 5-on-5, which, to be honest with you, I would not have guessed that. But it's Counter-Strike, and I haven't really watched much competitive Counter-Strike. But again, I am confused as to why Counter-Strike hasn't changed and why, you know, nobody's talking bad about that. And I think the reason for that is because people, to be honest with you, I don't see people playing Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people do play that game, but I think it's not nearly as popular as, like, say, Battlefield or Call of Duty. As far as shooters go, you know, there are obviously more popular games such as League of Legends and Defense of the Ancients. I believe that's what it's called, Dota. So, I don't know why the game hasn't changed. Maybe you guys know. If you know, please let me know why it hasn't changed. Because I would think if you start off so good with a good successful franchise, and that you have in Counter-Strike, that why you don't really try to maintain that. And I can't really say that they've given their best effort, in my opinion, if the game looks the exact same pretty much as it did 15 years ago, playing on the exact same maps. But I don't know, that's my opinion. And last thought is that it was kind of nice to see that they did use the old maps, in a sense, because the old maps are good, and that's what people want to see. And I kind of wish Call of Duty did a little bit more of that, but not as much as Counter-Strike, because I don't want to just play the same maps for 15 years. So, hope you guys understand, and well, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day, and peace.